everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're going to take a look at 6 games that I don't like. So, spoiler, I suppose. These are 6 different games. I play tons of games here. I tend to like more games than I don't, but these are ones I don't like for one reason or the other. But it's quite possible that you will have a high disagreement with me, so if you do, let me know in the comments. And we're going to go from these, from the one I like the best to the one I like the least. So here we go. Sheep Boomba! Point for the name. Point for good components. Unfortunately, that's about it. Let me show you. You're going to set up a random field like this, and players are going to take turns, and you're putting your sheep all around the outside of the board. And when one player's sheep are all removed from the board, then you've won the game. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get the sheep to your barn. On your turn, you have 2 actions. You can move a sheep to a spot. If it shows +1, you get a point. If you move onto a barn of your color, so let's say green goes here, they're going to get 3 points, and they can also, then that sheep goes to the barn. So as you go along, you're going to have sheep in your barn or sheep in your barnyard. At the end of the game, you get 1 point for each sheep of your color, 1 for other players' colors, and you get even more if you can move them to the barn, which could be an action. Occasionally, your sheep may uncover a tile that shows this, which means they're killed instantly and go here, which is -1 point. Although there are ways for you to defuse that bomb. And then you'd put one of these tiles out there and get 2 points. How do you defuse the bomb? Well, that's the one thing about this game. It's all about playing these cards. You have tons and tons of cards here. And each player has their own sort of deck of cards. But these cards can do all sorts of things, like move a sheep from another player's barn into your barn. You can draw at the end of your turn up to 4 cards. But hey, take an extra action after your turn. Move a sheep from your barnyard into your barn. Sheep battle. You both wager a sheep from your barn or barnyard, then you roll dice to see who wins. Look at a field tile before moving on to it. Move another player's sheep from their barn into your barnyard. Take a card from another player without looking. And move one of your sheep from a field tile into your barnyard. So they're kind of just a bunch of take that cards. Anyway, whoever has the most points is the winner. I want to point out that the pieces are very, very nice. That's good before I say about my thoughts on the gameplay. You know, I give this one a 6. And the reason I give it a 6 is because it's okay with kids. It is way too random. It is way too take that. Has nice components and everything, but it's just not a good game other than that. So it's a 6 with kids for me. It would probably, like, on a personal level, playing it's like a 4. But I give it a little bit of credence for that. But honestly, what's the point of this game? You just move around randomly and it's like, haha, we blew up sheep. But guess what? Exploding sheep has been done in board games before. It's not even a new theme. So I can't really recommend this one at all. Unless you want some sheep meeples that you can use for something else. Not a very good game. Sheep Boomba. It's fun to say the name, but other than that, you're just randomly moving around, randomly playing cards, and ha 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 ha. Aldeberan Duel is a game that I really thought I would like because the designer is Vladimir Suchi. Now, I hadn't heard of this company before called Dino, but I was very intrigued by this. It's a 2-player game, a space game. Let me show you a little bit of it. I'm not going to go over everything in this game. I just want to give a quick idea of how it works. You're going to be going through different decks of cards. This is the deck for round 2. You'll be pulling these off of offers, they're called. You'll take cards. They have like a cost sort of that you take. You'll take 1 or 2 cards. And you're going to be doing different things with cards. Cards can be resources, so you can spend cards to pay for other cards. You see that the cards have costs here on the side, which incidentally are not the same color as the resources, but whatever. So this one would cost 2 food and 3 of that. And then the cards would do different things. Some of the cards are going to have you move up on tracks here. So these top tracks here will move you up, and that will give you like permanent resources of that type. That makes it easier to build cards in the future. Although the cost of the cards goes up too, so that's keep in mind that. These 3 down here are going to let players manipulate at the end of every round this disc, and you want to get it onto your side so that you score points. And that's one is going to move it up and down, one moves it like this, and then this one lets you move it a certain number of spaces like that. And then this spot here is kind of like a science resource that you'll spend to get bonus cards. Other cards show planets. When you get one of these planets, you have to build other cards to finish the planet completely. Like the section I just covered was a specific one, but anyone can go in there, but this one needs a specific type to go in there. So these 2 are finished. When these two fill in, then you get the resources and bonuses from that. And that's the game. The game's going to be 3 rounds where the cards get continually more expensive as you go through it. But whoever has the most points after those 3 rounds is the winner. So there's a couple problems with this game. The idea of drafting these cards, I love the idea of putting those planet corners on a planet to finish it. The game is too long and too sloggy to really be fun. So you get these cards, and I love the idea of the tracks, right? But there's a problem with those tracks that I showed you. First of all, let's take the bottom one. The bottom one where you move this token around on this track here. Ooh, that's neat, except it's basically just a big tug of war. And if one person pulls it, you can pull it back, and it just doesn't do a whole lot. It's a tug of war that's in all different kinds of dimensions here, but it doesn't really mean a lot. And if you don't draw the cards to make it work, one person's going to run away with those points. It's just not very interesting. And then the resource track. So that's an interesting idea, right? I play cards to play it with other cards, but I'd rather move up these tracks so that I don't have to play as many cards. And you start getting resources. You're like, I can finally afford cards. And then you go to deck 2 and you find out everything in here is more expensive. And it's not even like the cards are that much better. They're just more expensive. So then you have to get more resources, and you're like, I can finally afford the cards in round 2. Then you get to round 3, and it's even more expensive. So each round is not successively more interesting. It's just more expensive. I don't particularly like that. And then when you combine that with the game just being a little overly long and back and forth. So I don't hate this game. I give it a 6. It's not great. There's a lot of concepts in it I like, but it doesn't come together in a way that I enjoy, and it's not nearly as good as Vladimir Suchi's other games. So that's Aldeberan Duel. Zoo Tycoon here. So this was one of my most anticipated games of last year. This one I do not care for much at all. I give it a 5 out of 10. But I want to be perfectly clear. So I do lots of reviews on a Dice Tower. This one, if you want to, you can consider this first impressions more than a review, because I'm not sure I played the game correctly. So there's this massive size rulebook here. This rulebook is humongous. It's terrible. I don't know if I'm playing the game correctly, but this game is, it's a complex game. That's another problem with this game, right? It's super complex. It barely fits in a box. You have to like really work hard to fit everything in a box. There's tons of pieces and tons of animals, and there's a huge amount of setup. But we're talking about a game that's on the weight of a Vasel Lacerda game. It's that hefty, and I think it's a big problem because most people who play Zoo Tycoon are casual gamers. Yes, Zoo Tycoon, if you play the video game, can get very complex behind the scenes if you want to. But you can also just build a pen and then put lions in it and see what happens. This is not the way this game works. In this game, there's a gigantic board in the middle of the table that has a sheet underneath the board. You then move the board around, and it will change animals, but you're not necessarily buying animals. You are getting them from other zoos based on their availability. You then build pens in your zoo. And again, there's a lot of weirdness about the rules. Like you put these tiles in your zoo that build a pen. Do they have to be next to each other? There's lines on the board. There's a lot. This is honestly one of the worst nice looking rule books I've ever read. I was not 100% sure we were doing anything. But then you go, every time you put animals out, you run through a checklist to see if there's enough animals. Are they going to breed? If they breed, what do you do with the extra animals? Are they happy? How do you make them happier? And it's so much work. It's not fun at all. And the joy of Zoo Tycoon is putting animals in your zoo. So a lot of people can compare this with Ark Nova, one of the most popular games ever made. That's also about zoos. Ark Nova has a zoo theme to it, and it's about animals, but it's about the game mechanisms and being fun. The person who designed this game obviously cares about animals a lot, because there's a lot of different things in here that they care about, conservation and stuff. But honestly, there's just so much overhead and so many rules and such a problem that my desire to ever play this again is null. And that's a bummer because I love the theme. I like how the game looks. I like that there's the different meeples for the animals. I mean, look at the picture in the back of the box. It just looks cool, right? It looks fun. But I think a lot of people are going to get foiled by this. And some people are going to enjoy it. But I found it to be such a mess that I cannot really recommend it. Graffiti from Queen Games. It seems like Queen does 2 different types of games these days. They do games from Stefan Feld, and then they do games that aren't very good. And this is in the second category. Graffiti is not a particularly good game. I give it a 5 out of 10. It is about, well, painting graffiti, which is, I guess, sort of an interesting theme, I guess. Anyway, here, I'll show you. In this game, it's basically what we call a worker placement game, where you're going to place workers out. You have these little spray bottles, and on your turn, you'll place them in different spots. So some spots require 1, and some spots require 2 to go there. So obviously, if you go here, the first person would put 1. The next person to go there would take 2. You're going to these spots to get paints of different colors. There's going to be a certain amount of paint there. You go over here to take permits that are going to be here, that allow you to go out here. You go here to get these tiles that you can use once in a while, and then you go out here to actually paint something. So if I have green and yellow and a permit for 3, then I can place somebody here, pay the green and yellow and the permit 3 from here, and then flip it over. Although actually you're supposed to flip it over. I always forget how to flip these over, because if you don't flip it over properly, the picture doesn't go together. Did I mess this one up? It's so hard to tell. Also, this is green and blue. That's not green and blue, so there's a real mismatch between the colors. But anyway, when you do that, you'll put one of these tokens on it to make the game a little uglier, but also to remember that you've done it. You're going to get points here. So this is 6 points when you do this particular one. They're all worth different amounts of points on them. But if the whole painting is done at the end, so this whole one is done at the end of the game, then everyone's going to get points based on the number of segments that's in it. But you only get those points if it's done. That's why you have these on, to remember that for end game scoring. In between rounds, you can't keep all of your paint, but that's basically the whole game. So Graffiti is a worker placement game that is just plain out boring. Get the colors, get the permits, go to the spot, pay the colors, pay the permits, flip it over. That's the whole game. A few special tiles. The only interesting rule the game has is that at the end of every round, you can only keep so much paint, so you have to put some back. So there's a little bit of that, but I want the one that has 3 greens, so I got 3 greens, and Bob got 3 greens first, so he took that one. So now I got to switch to something else. I need that one, so I need a permit for 3. You can pay any 2 permits to go anywhere. It's just so boring. And then it looks dull. It's a game about graffiti, which this is a nice looking cover, I suppose. Don't get mad, I'm not a fan of graffiti. I think graffiti is okay, right? But some people like it, okay, and that's fine. And this game makes it seem like it's this really awesome thing, but the game itself just looks really dull. The components are uninspired. It looks like a game from 1994. So I don't really like it that much. It's a nothing game for me. It's not like it's horrible, but there's nothing interesting about it. It's a person that you invite to dinner, and they just talk about their accounting job the whole time. That's what Graffiti is. Another Christmas romance movie. I really wanted to like this. This is a cheesy theme, right? From the cheesy artwork to the whole thing. This is basically Hallmark Movie, the board game. And in this game, you're going to be rolling dice and making your own, well, cheesy Christmas romance movie. Let me show you. In this game, everyone's going to get 1-star love interest and 1 headliner love interest you pick. They're all the same. It doesn't matter who you pick. They're going to have 5 green dice, deferred dice, and 1 3 on the other. You also have some cards up here that are movie elements and Christmas romance cards. And then each person is going to get 5 stage cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're going to turn over stage 1. So to win the game, you need to go through all 5 stages. So what you do in this game is, on your turn, you can roll 3 dice. If you want to, you can defer 2 of those dice to roll on a future turn. You can have up to 5 of these. So in a future turn, let's say I get 3 dice. I'm like, I will also take these 2 dice and roll them. Also, after you roll, other people can copy your dice, I think, by putting them here, which can be used in the future. After you roll, you must place your dice. So you can place them on these cards here, and you are trying to get 4 on stage 1. When you get each other's order, a series of kisses are interrupted at the last second. However, the only child has emotions about replacing a lost parent. But love triumphs by a love interest, uncovers the good-hearted truth. And then the last present at Christmas comes in a small box. So they're all like that. Anywho, so you need 4 on this card, but on the last one you would need 8 on that. And you have to match the symbols. If there's nothing on them, they have to be the same thing. And you have to place them at the same time. So you might not get what you want. You can use these cards up here. For example, I could place a present here to change it to Snowflake, and I get another dice in my deferred dice area. You can also finish this Christmas romance up here as you put tokens on that, but only the person who puts the last one on gets that card. And unless you get one of these Christmas romance cards, you can't go to level 2. You have to finish the dice in level 1, you have to finish one of these, and then you get to do level 2, and then you need to finish another Christmas romance wherever it might be. So you're going to keep doing that. Once someone gets through stage 5, they win the game. This game is... So, the components are okay. The rules are not. The rules do not explain anything. In fact, if you play the game says on the box here that it goes to 6 players. There's not enough dice for 6 players. In a Kickstarter update, they said, oh, well, if you play 6 players, you're supposed to play on teams. Good information, not in the rule book. There's a lot of things not in that rule book. And the rule book is long, and it's a lot of writing in that rule book for a pretty simple game. But the biggest problem with this game are those Christmas cards that you need to get, and only the person who puts the last die gets it. That breaks this game so dramatically. It's so boring to roll dice and go, nothing I can do. Or I can put dice on that card, and the next one goes, and I'll take that card. Now, you can only have one of those cards at a time, but if they finish their project, which it's easy to finish your project, they're on their next card, and the game is long. You roll this, roll this, roll this, roll this. The funniest part is reading the cards. They did a great job on the theme. And because of that, I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. Because the theme is good. The rest of the game, though, is terrible. It feels like it was designed by people who never played board games before. And just like the Christmas romance movie. I'm a big fan of the theme, not a big fan of the game. Lights Out Racing. This is a racing game that's terrible. Like, horrible. I mean, this is one of the worst racing games I've ever played, but it looks pretty. Let me show you. In this game, players are going to race around the board here after a certain number of laps, which is likely going to be 1 because you're going to quit before then. But each person will keep track of the number of laps here. You're also going to keep track of your energy reduction system. So on your turn, you're going to roll 2 dice, and that's how far you can move. That's right. You roll 2, you move 2. You roll 10, you move 10. Unless you roll doubles, in which case you can jump to whoever the first, if that person's way up here, you can jump to their spot. But wait, there's more. See, the whole reason you might say, instead of rolling 10, I'm just going to roll 5. Move 5. So you move 5 spaces, and then you'll add 5 to your ERS system here. Once your ERS system gets to 10, then you can roll 3 dice for 3 turns, which gives you an average of 0.5 extra pips for doing that. But I forgot to tell you, before you start a race, roll a die. If you roll evens, you go to fast. If you roll odds, you go slow. What does that mean? That means when you're counting spaces on the board, if you are going slow, you must go on the long spot on each one for the entire lap. And if you are fast, you can go on the shorter one. And it doesn't change from one lap to the next. You roll the die, you could go slow the entire race. But wait, there's more. If you land behind another car on one of these spots, which looks suspiciously like a sorry game, you will slide all the way to the end. At least you don't knock them home, I guess. Also, whenever you get to a curve, you'll stop. You'll keep track of your remaining movement points over here because now you're going to quick play a game of Yahtzee. You're going to roll black dice, 1 for each tire, and you're just trying to get matches. Okay, well, there was no matches there. There's a match. Oh, and you get to roll 3 times. I have 1 match, so I go here. What does that do? If I had gotten 2 to 3 matches or 4 matches, I would have gone there. I guess I got 2, so I'm here. But if I hadn't got any matches, then I get a warning. You get 3 warnings, you lose a turn. Otherwise, you go here and continue your racing. There's a few other rules, but that's pretty much how the game goes for a very long, terrible time. What? I mean, come on. The reason this gets a 2 from me instead of a 1 is because it really does look good. That's the only reason. This is horrible. You roll dice to move. That's not a great thing. There's a lot of games that do it. Rolling doubles lets you catch a leader, whatever. But then, before each lap, you roll and you either have to take the long way or the short way. It's just a random thing that happens. Why? Is that what they do in races? They're like, Bob, whenever you get to a curve, you got to take the long way around. Why? Because we randomly decided that. What? And then when you get to a curve, you have to stop and play a little Yahtzee game, which slows the whole game down, is boring. The fact that you can save energy, you need to save 10 energy to roll an extra die 3 times in a row. And if you rolling an extra die is an average of 3.5, so you're going to get an average of 10.5 extra movement for not using 10 movement. What? Not only that, when you have 3 dice to catch up to the leader, you need to roll triples rather than doubles. So it's worse. And then the Sorry, it's like whoever played this game played Sorry, played Yahtzee, and played Candyland. And they were like, let's make a racing game. But then they act all serious about it here. Oh, Lights Out Racing. Use your energy recovery system, the ERS, and the drag reduction system, DRS. Come on. There are so many great, amazing racing games in the Dice Tower library. I have an entire shelf of great games. This game looks at those games, but it's terrible. Why is it even called Lights Out Racing? Racing in its truth, no, don't get it. And there you go, folks. That are 6 games I don't like, but you know what? I'm sure some of you disagree with me. So tell me in the comments which of these I should actually like instead. Or maybe you agree with me. You can let me know in the comments on that too. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vasel, and this is the Dice Tower.